Welcome to everybody. Thanks for showing up. I said the worst fear of any presenter is you show up and it's just you and the cameraman in the room talking to each other for an hour and nobody shows. So I appreciate everybody taking time out of their day. I know there's a lot of really exciting things going on today, so the fact that you showed up is very much appreciated. Today we're going to talk about the universal control system. But if you'll indulge me for just a second, I would like to talk a little bit about why it's important first. I think a lot of times we rush to what the product can do, what are the features, what are the capabilities, how does it work, and that's all important in time. But the key perspective, in my opinion, is why is it important first? Why should I even care what it can do? Right? There's a lot of products out there, and every product can do something. Sometimes they're really impressive. But if it doesn't help you solve a problem, if it doesn't get you to where you need to go, then as exciting as that is, it's just a bunch of marketing and bullet points. And for us, that's really important because Grenzebach doesn't want to supply products. We don't want to supply commodities. We're not here just to push our AGVs. We want to be a journey partner. And to be a journey partner, you don't supply commodities. You don't supply components. You help your partners solve problems. And solutions, when we're chasing solutions, can come from a lot of different places. Right? Sometimes a solution to a problem you didn't even realize existed becomes available because of a new innovation. Right? A new production model, the assembly line. Henry Ford introduced the assembly line. People out there were building things forever. They didn't even realize they had a problem that could be solved. When he introduced the assembly line, they realized, we've got some problems. This could be a solution. But if they had made decisions, if they had set things up in a way that blocked them from taking advantage of that, then as exciting as it was, as innovative as it was, they wouldn't have access to it. They would have made a decision yesterday that stopped them from doing something tomorrow, and they wouldn't even have known about it. So one of the keys is you have to keep the paths open, and that's kind of a reoccurring theme. Keep the paths open to new innovations. Don't make decisions today that box you in tomorrow and take things off the table. Sometimes solutions come from new tools that become made available. The spinning jenny, right, ushered in the Industrial Revolution. The internal combustion engine put automobiles on the map. Telegraph, telephone, instantaneous communication, missives and messages that may have taken months to send back and forth now happened in seconds. Just think of what that opened up. But again, if you didn't keep the path clear, if you made bad decisions, hasty decisions, uninformed decisions, even by accident, and didn't allow you to take advantage of electric motors or the spinning jenny, the power loom, if you couldn't do that, it didn't matter. It didn't matter what new tools were available today or what new tools were going to be available tomorrow. You boxed yourself in. Sometimes new challenges lead to solutions. When you're feeding your family or a small group, you carry around whatever wheat or corn in baskets or in your hands. But if you want to take on a new challenge, if you want to advance and evolve and improve, and you want to feed a town or a village, you can't do it with baskets. You need different tools. You need technology. You need the wheel. It's not technology today, but it was technology then. Hand carts, animal carts, those were innovations. And you needed to take advantage of them if you wanted to take on and embrace the next challenge. You want to feed a continent? You need trucks and rails. You can't use ox carts anymore. You want to feed the world? You need grain silos and super freighters. So don't box yourself in. Keep the path clear to new challenges. Challenges you want to take on today, challenges you might want to take on tomorrow.
But don't you think that, I mean, how do you know that you've boxed yourself in? You have to make a decision today.
You do.
So, and once you made that decision, obviously, you might box yourself in.
That's 100% correct. That's 100% correct. Because the paths sometimes are really easy. Direct ones, those are the best, right? Super easy. I just need a tool to get me there. I just need a couple of technologies because maybe it's multi-tiered. I need an innovation to get me there. But if you box yourself in, if you block a path, sometimes solutions just aren't available. So if you make the wrong decision today, you might not be able to get there, no matter how simple the path is. Now, the other thing that happens when paths are blocked is you get a little creative. Desperation. Well, I'll just go around that. You know, I can get there. A little circuitous, a little ugly. I can get there and solve the problem. But you don't solve the problem. You get a result. And a result is very different than a solution. They may look the same sometimes, but they're not the same. And we've all seen it. Desperation is not the foundation of a good solution. We've seen what happens when you use the wrong tools. Right? You get a result. They got a result. But it wasn't a solution. Use the wrong technology. And to clarify, that's not me plugging in the last time I visited Hamlar. I've actually got one of these bad guys, right? You get one of these. A little bit of technology. Pretty straightforward path. But if you don't have it, you get a result. I don't know what the hell that result was, but I bet it wasn't pleasant. Sometimes if you don't have access to innovations, you got to get really creative. And I admire their gumption, but I don't think that's the result they necessarily wanted. It certainly wasn't the solution. So keep the paths clear. When you have access to all the right tools, all the right innovations, all the right technologies, you can take on all the challenges you want to take on and get to a solution. The problem we face today, it's complex, no matter how you look at it. And we're talking primarily about automated goods transport, moving things around. But even that, even taking something from point A to point B, isn't always easy. Think about what you've got here. All of these grew up organically over time. You probably were able to hand carry just about everything you did when you were small. But then maybe you had to move to pallet jacks and dollies or roller tables, bring in an electric cart. Pretty soon there's a tugger in the area. Now you got some fork trucks. I've actually been in automotive facilities that use all of those. And the really interesting thing is they operate together. They operate in the same environment, same work environment. You got all of these different tools out there, all of these technologies, and they're traveling the same aisles. They're driving down the same rows. They're moving around in the same space. And how do they do it? How do they do that? There's a singular, unseen force at the center of it, right? The human brain. It just happens. I'm carrying some boxes, and I know that Chris always drives his tugger down aisle 5, so I just don't go down aisle 5. I just avoid it. Or I'm pushing a hand cart, and I see Billy coming towards me on a fork truck. All right, I'm just going to get out of the way and let him go by, sort that out, take care of it. And it's great. We all have access to it. It's pretty powerful. A lot of pluses come from just operating around the human brain. But there's minuses too. People get sick. People take holidays. People quit. A lot of turnover. Availability. Sometimes you can't even find someone who wants to drive a fork truck anymore. Packages get dropped. Packages get damaged. Good Lord, they certainly get misplaced and lost. A lot. And there's collisions. As careful as everybody is, fork trucks hit a lot of stuff. And they do a lot of damage when they hit it, right? Not intentional. People aren't driving around reckless trying to hit stuff, but they hit stuff. So how do we move on from this? Well, we've got to find something that'll let us automate all of these manual processes, let it work in the same work environment, let them share the same aisles, let them share the same spaces, not only with each other. Not only does a tunnel under AGV have to talk to a fork truck AGV or a custom AGV have to talk to a roller truck, but there's a lot of times people walking around. They've got to be safe. They've got to be collaborative. How do we get all of those positives and get rid of all the negatives that come along with the manual processes. AGVs don't take vacations, God bless them. They'll work 24 hours a day as long as you keep them charged. They don't get sick. They don't run into things. They can work alongside people. You don't need fences. You don't need restricted areas. You can fence things off if you want, but you don't have to. They'll work right alongside human beings, no problems. They don't drop packages. They don't misplace things. They don't put them down over there and forget about them. If you have perishable goods, they don't put a box of buns over there and then 3 days later you find out you should have shipped them. But if we're going to do this, we need a replacement. We need that unseen force at the center of it all. Something has to replace that human brain. Something has to tell the AGV, don't go down aisle 5, somebody else is in aisle 5. That's the universal control system. That's what we're working towards. Because the problem we face is generally pretty complex. You may want to implement a combination of AGVs. Maybe you need a custom. Hopefully not. That takes a little longer to design and work with you, but we will, and we build custom AGVs. Maybe you need a pallet jack AGV or a fork truck. Maybe you want to do it in a phased approach. Maybe you can't afford to go 100% automated. Maybe you don't want to go 100% automated, and you still want your manual tuggers and your manual fork trucks out there. Maybe you don't want to invest that much up front. Maybe you want to bite off a little bit, get a success, and then move on to another one. That's perfectly acceptable to get to an interim solution. It's not easy, but you need to make the right decisions in order to accommodate that. And then when you're ready to take the next step, and you want to bring in additional AGVs to replace those manual tuggers and those manual fork trucks, you need a solution that'll accommodate that. And to your point, what about that one? What about what's coming next? Right, we know what we're doing in the world of our AGVs, our internal AGVs, but I don't know what the third-party people are doing. They might have something on the hopper right now that's really top-notch and really exciting. And for us, if we build it, great. If they build it and you can use it and we put it in our solution, that's perfect, because we want to solve your problem, not sell you an AGV. We want to get you to that ultimate solution. If it's one step, beautiful. If it's 20, we're here. So the universal control system, we've talked kind of about why. Why would it be important? Let's talk about how we do it. What does it do? Let's get to those capabilities and features that everyone wants to hear. A couple of key things. Number one, it allows us to implement third-party AGVs. We have great AGVs. We've got tunnel unders, we've got fork trucks, we've got low lifts, we've got pallet jacks, but some of them might not have the capacity that you need. We're working with customers who need to pick up 12,000 pounds. We don't make that AGV. In fact, nobody makes every AGV. Nobody does. You can't. And if they try, you probably don't make the best AGV for every step. You'd be getting a result if you're forced to pick one supplier today. And it might not be the right decision for tomorrow. So we've built our universal control system around a framework that's referred to as VDA 50/50. And I promise I'm not getting into the details because I know a few of them, but not any, just enough to be dangerous, as they say, right? It hasn't been really prevalent here in the US, but it's very prevalent in Europe right now. And it's a framework that has to do with the communications between the fleet manager system, the thing that sends the AGVs out on their missions, and the AGVs and how they receive those messages. So it's not plug and play, right? To think of, if you build on VDA 50/50, if you build an AGV, I can just plug it into my fleet manager and we roll. But the way it's been described to me, the one that kind of hit home is, you're going to speak the same language just with a different dialect, right? I might call that a bottle, you might call it a mug. We can sort through that way easier than if I don't even use bottles and you don't even use mugs. So even though we can incorporate AGVs from third parties if they're not on VDA 50/50, the advent of VDA 50/50 has really made it plausible. It's viable. And we're actually working or in the process, or very close to, or at the end of, and I can't say all of their names, but there's several third parties where this is going on right now, just to expand our solution set. And when all of these can work together in the same environment, then you're not self-imposing barriers. You're not putting up artificial roadblocks. You get to use the right tool for the job every time. And if you don't know what the tool is, and you don't know what the job is, it's okay. When it arises, we'll have a path to it. We've kept the path clear. That's key. Now, even if somebody has an AGV that is VDA 5050 compliant, that doesn't mean their fleet manager can take others on. It just means they allow their AGV to go to somebody else's fleet manager. And as we'll talk about later, not all fleet managers are created equal either. So even if you are VDA 5050 compliant, even if you have a fleet manager that can accept third-party AGVs, still might not be the best decision. There's still more to consider. This is really interesting, and this is on the cutting edge. And I see I've got some colleagues from Europe in the back. They probably know more about it than we did. We just found out, but there's a lot of really interesting things going on. Remember, this also allows seamless integration alongside manual processes. So if you have people walking the floor, it's okay, right? If you have a phased approach where you still want to bring in manual fork trucks or keep manual fork trucks and then bring in some automated tuggers, that's okay. Manual operations can be accommodated by our UCS. So we'll move at your pace. We'll follow your timeline. We'll tie our successes to your successes. And we'll work on professional change management, which could be a presentation unto itself. When you're going from a manual process to an automated process, it's tremendously difficult. Not to scare you off of it, but it just means you want the right partner. It scares the people a lot of times who are used to manual processes. They worry, are they going to lose their jobs? Can they keep up with the technology? You've got to set their fears aside. If you have a process that isn't ready to be automated and you automate it, you're just going to make mistakes faster. And that's not the key. That's not the end goal. Right? So we'll work with you on that change management. We've done this before. Doesn't mean we know everything. It means we need to learn about you. You need to learn about us. But we'll work with you and get you through that. But it keeps all the paths open. So, for example, here's a warehouse. And in the past, prior to this, if you needed to use different types of AGVs, or if you needed to include manual processes, or if you had a combination, you may have to buy fleet managers from multiple suppliers because you have to buy AGVs from multiple suppliers, and they don't talk to each other. Well, if they don't talk to each other, you really got to be careful about areas where they share spaces. Right? You run an AGV here all by itself, it doesn't have to worry about anybody else. Their fleet manager could probably handle it. That's pretty straightforward. But if you ever want to share an area, are they going to smash into each other full speed? No. No, that's not going to happen, right? These things are safe. They have navigation. They're not going to slam into each other. But I might be going down that aisle. You might be coming at me. I don't know you're coming down that aisle. You don't know I am. Deadlock. Roadblock. We'll sort it out. Maybe they sit there until somebody comes and backs them out manually. Maybe they can navigate around. Maybe they backtrack on their own using their fleet manager. But you're still going to get roadblocks. You're still going to have deadlocks. There's going to be blind spots. You're going to have downtime. And your availability goes down because they're surprising each other as they turn around the corner. So you put up with that, or you segment them and you say, you can go here and you can go there. I don't ever want you crossing paths. Well, that's not optimal either, right? You got disjointed layouts, poor designs. You're buying more AGVs than you need because they've got to travel around each other instead of going from point A to point B. You don't want that. Plus all the training. If you have four fleet managers out there, somebody's got to be proficient on all 4 fleet managers and remember which one they're working on. Because of UCS, you use a single fleet manager. You use our universal control system. You can use as many different AGVs as you want. We'll bring in the ones that are right for the job. They can share the whole space. You can have people in there walking with them. You can have people driving fork trucks in there with them, carrying packages, going about their daily business. You share a footprint. simplified layouts, no roadblocks, no deadlocks. Your availability and uptime goes through the roof, and you have common training. You learn one system. Second point was manual operations. You can still use a single UCS, but you can integrate AGT, manual goods transport. It's safe and collaborative, so if you still have people carrying boxes, that's okay. We're not going to slam into them and hurt them. If you still want manual fork trucks, manual tuggers, it's okay. Because we can actually track your units. You put locational devices on a manual fork truck, and we know where they are on the map. And if you're using column 5 all the time, and we have a path that takes column 5 or takes column 7, we'll go take column 7. If they do take the same path, that's okay as well because they're collaborative. They'll move around each other. They'll stop. They'll let them pass. The other thing we get to do when we do all of this is we'll keep detailed statistics about what's taking what paths, what's doing what deliveries, right? You know the AGVs in place. We've got statistics on that. We know if you need to boost an AGV, if you have too many. But if we're talking about manual operations, the more we track, the more we follow them around the plant, the more when you say, you know what, I think I want to go to automated tuggers, we'll have a really good head start on designing that because we'll know what they've done, we'll know their paths, we'll know the volume, we'll know how much they move. We won't be starting from scratch. We're collecting this information as we go. Now I've got asterisks by these because we're playing around with the idea of using interactive tablets to potentially use the fleet manager to direct some of the manual operations. We could tell a fork truck driver, you've got to pick up something at point L and take it to point S. We could even make a recommendation that you should take this route. Now we can't make them take the route. And we'll know if they don't take the route and we'll avoid them. But we're playing around with that. So to really fully integrate them in. Don't know if you want to do it tomorrow, but you don't have to make that decision today. So the good news is, all things being equal, seems an obvious choice. You pick the partner, you pick the provider that keeps the path clear to all the new innovations that are here today and the ones that might show up tomorrow. All things being equal, you pick the provider that gives you access to all the new tools. All things being equal, you pick the provider that allows you to take on the challenges you want to take on tomorrow. Better news is, all things aren't equal. Makes it even easier. Not only does the universal controller keep all those paths clear, it's also the best fleet manager system in the market. We've poured piles of resources into this. So it's not just built around UCS. We're talking about that primarily today. What does it do? What is universal control? Why is it important? But that just allows us to integrate other components. We can bring in third-party AGVs, we can bring in manual devices. When we do that, what else comes with it? Well, our fleet manager comes with it. And our fleet manager is tremendous. Now here's a couple of features and capabilities, and I'll run through these, but I'm comfortable running through them now because I think we've talked more than enough about why is all of it important. Let's talk about how, right? So traffic management, and these are some basics. But whether it's our AGV, third-party AGV, or maybe in the future even a manual fork truck, we pick the shortest path. We'll send something from point A to point B as quickly and efficiently as it can. We'll avoid deadlocks and roadblocks. We're not going to send two AGVs down a path where we know they're going to run into one another. It's ridiculous. We'll send them down alternate paths. We'll avoid each other. We know where they are now, we know where they just were, and we know where all the other ones are going. So it's not even reactive, it's proactive. We're not looking and saying, oh, geez, aisle 5 is blocked. Send them down aisle 7. We know aisle 5 is going to be blocked because we're issuing the commands. So we know to send them down aisle 7 and not aisle 5. Highest uptime. right? They're not chasing around taking 5 minutes to make a delivery that should take 2 minutes. You have access to them. I've also had one of the guys in my team, and I love the way he phrased it, the mortal sin of an AGV is running around not carrying anything, running around unburdened. The more we know where they are, the more availability. If I have to pick up an empty pallet there in 30 seconds and I'm here already dropping off a pallet, let me go over there and pick that one up, because by the time I get there, it's going to be empty, right? High uptime, high availability, high efficiency. There's also periphery interfaces that we have. Fire protection. This is one that you don't really think of. I didn't think of it. But when there's an alarm, if you've got a plant full of AGVs and a plant full of people, and they have to get out, you don't want the fire alarm to just trigger a dead stop for all the AGVs. You want them to get out of the way. So we build in areas where the AGVs scuttle to when there's a fire to get out of the way. Clear the main passages, clear the main aisles, clear the main rows, let the people get to the exits. Get out of the way. Don't just stop. Don't just be a dumb roadblock. Get out of the way. But it lets us work with a lot of other things. We can work with elevators, we can work with roll-up doors, we can work with robots, we can work with different sensors and scanners and safety devices, light curtains, pressure plates. All of those periphery interactions can be handled through our fleet manager. ERP. Now this has to do a lot with communicating with your existing warehouse management system. If you have one, beautiful. We'll interact with it. If you have a high-level ERP, right? We work with SAP, we work with Oracle. We can work with others. We can do custom. But those are two that are in place for sure. Very flexible. We've got different levels. We don't have an ERP system. We don't try to duplicate what Oracle does. That would be crazy. We don't have those kind of resources. But we've got a warehouse control system that could sit in between. If you have one already, we can work with it. If you don't, we can use ours. If you need a warehouse management system, maybe that sits between the control system and the ERP, we can use a third party and bring it in, because it's been designed to interact with what you need. It's very flexible. We've got a lot of different software options. Some customers like us to set it up so we're on site and everything is sitting on servers that are physically at the plant. Some customers like to use the cloud. Some people like a combination of that. That's okay. We're very IT friendly. We have remote support. We have remote access. We have preferred ways that we do it because it's efficient. We know how to use them. We'll also use your way even if it's a little circuitous and we have to learn some things. We've done that just recently with some partners that we have, some key cornerstone partners. We've changed how we get into their system remotely to match up with their ISO regulations and their IT concerns. Task management. It's always going to pick the right tool for the job. Now that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to pick a certain AGV to do a certain task all the time. There may be tasks that can be designed and configured so that either a tunnel under or a conveyor top or a fork truck can move something from point A to point B. Sometimes they're very specific. Sometimes you need a tunnel under for that one and you need a fork truck for that one. But if there are tasks that could be handled by a multiple set, because it's configured in such a way that you can pick it up with a fork truck or you can drive under it with a tunnel under, we'll send the right one. We'll send the one that's open. We won't always focus on sending a tunnel under. We'll send whichever one of those 2 or 3 different types that we control to get there. Charge minimum. We'll talk about that again, but we set up minimum charge levels, and they're configurable, but we set them up in a way, and this, it might sound obvious, it might not be obvious, that's the only reason I bring it up. We don't send out an AGV if it's on the verge of not having enough power to complete the job and get back to a charger. So you're not going to be stuck out there with, wow, halfway through my job and my battery just ran out, right? And we set them pretty aggressively high. We usually set them around 70 or 80%. And the reason we do that is because we do opportunistic charging. So I'll jump ahead to that one and then come back. What that means is we don't wait until it runs down to 20% and then have it go sit on the charger for 30 minutes to get it back up, right? We do opportunistic charging. You just finished a drop off, you're near a charger, I don't need you right now, go sit on there for 5 minutes. Boom, we bring you back up, you're at 90%, excellent. Didn't need to charge you, but we took advantage of it because it was there. Keeps the most active AGVs out there in the fleet. It minimizes the fleet size that you have to invest in. Alerts, these are pretty cool. Obviously, if there's an issue with the system, if something is deadlocked, if something gets hit, if something gets knocked, if something gets ran into by a manual fork truck, and that does happen, they do have alerts on multiple levels. So if you get near one of our AGVs and it's a collaborative AGV and it's interacting out in the open, we've got a lot of safety. We've got blue lights that show where it's going. We've got beepers that go off if you get too close. We've got all kinds of things. But it's not evasive. If a fork truck is coming and it's going to hit it, it's probably going to hit it because it doesn't jump back out of the way. So even though we'll alert and alarm and let the fork truck drivers know where we are, if they do get hit, if something does happen, we can send out alarms. We can page you, we can text you, we can email you, we can let your people know there's an issue on the plant floor, get out there. Which is nice because you can be a little more aggressive with your resource utilization. You don't have to have a person out there watching everything, hoping something didn't go wrong or being ready to react to it. We'll let you know when something went wrong and you can get out there. Opportunistic charging we talked about, which results in higher uptimes. This is really neat. Peak time flexibility. This is one where if you normally need 7 AGVs, we may give you 9 because you're going to want to account for some downtime to charging, right? So you could get by with 7, but it's going to be really tough. So let's do 9 because we'll have 7 active at any given time with 2 charging. However, if there are peak times where you need all 9, we can set it up so they're charged and they're ready to go come peak time, and then we just tell them, you got a 3-hour peak time, go. And all 9 will run. Even if they dip a little bit, even if they go a little below that high level we like to set, we won't pull them back and charge them. You don't have to buy 11 or 12 to get through peak time. We'll utilize that full fleet for that peak time period as efficiently as possible. Put that one in red because I thought that was really cool. I like that one a lot. That's going to save a lot of investment. That's going to save a lot of spare parts. It's going to save a lot of maintenance. Vehicle interfaces. Talked about this most of the presentation. We can talk to Grenzebach AGVs. We can talk to third-party AGVs because of VDA 5050. I've got a really short little video here that I want to show you. This is something that happened at the 2023 AGV Mesh-Up. This has 9 different AGVs, so AGVs from 9 different providers running in the same area. Nothing fancy. This isn't somebody's full-blown fleet manager, right? This is an educational, academic exercise. So something was put together where all of us could go there and talk. All of us went there. All of them, you can see the Grenzebach one there moving around. They all operated within 500 square meters. 9 people. So this is not a exciting thing that's coming in the future. This is not something that's hopefully coming in 2025, 2026. This is active. This is going on now. This isn't just marketing fluff. This really does happen. This really goes on right now, right today.
For third-party devices, did you have IP issues to overcome?
Not generally. Most of the time when we interact with someone, we will sign MNDAs and make sure that things are protected. But because of the VDA protocol being kind of, I guess I'll call it open source and common, not really. We're not really sharing inner secrets. You get to keep behind your door what you want as long as your outward interface.
Yeah, I'm thinking more of the OEM protecting their programs so that you couldn't do this.
No, there are people, let me make sure I understand your question. There are certain providers that are pushing back against this.
Yeah.
There are certain third-party providers who make their own AGVs, make their own fleet manager, who are saying, we'll pass. If you want to use our AGVs, you've got to buy our fleet manager and you have to work just with us.
Yeah.
What we're counting on, and I think US Automotives probably carry the biggest hammer when it comes to this, we're counting on customers and partners saying, if you don't play by these rules where we can all work together, then you're off the table. I think if there's a fear or a risk of them just losing the project because they can't strong arm you into just using their solutions, I think they'll eventually come to the table, or they'll find out they've been passed by, right? They're one of those solutions that is a hand cart in a world of semi-trucks. So, kind of to wrap things up, right? Today's decisions, they're difficult. They really are difficult. And they can be scary, and they can slow you down. I personally think having the UCS out there, having Grenzbach's universal control system does make today's decisions easier, because you can be comfortable that you're not boxing yourself out. We'll give you access to the tools you need, to the technology you need, to the innovations you need to keep taking on future challenges. Tomorrow decisions we don't know about, and I can't promise you that UCS will make them easier. What we can ensure, though, is, like you said, if you choose UCS today, those decisions tomorrow will remain in your hands. It won't be someone coming to you saying, you can't take on that challenge. You need that, and you can't use that. You have to be able to incorporate this technology, and you can't. You can't. Let's keep the paths clear. I know we kind of had discussions and questions as we went, and I'm not sure I can answer every single one of them technically, but anything specific that I didn't cover, or anything specific that sounded confusing, or you want to?
If each of the AGV manufacturer had its own WCS or traffic management system, and we purchase yours, does it sit one layer above those?
No, we don't need their fleet manager. Their AGV connects directly to our fleet manager. So you're just purchasing one fleet manager system. We just treat it as another tool, as another mover in our library.
Which would mean reconfiguring every AGV to your software, right?
Yes, the third part, yeah. What we would do, and it doesn't take long, but we would meet with provider XYZ, who has a fork truck that we need for yours. If they're VDA 50/50, we put our people together, couple of months, max, boom, we're in line, we're talking, and we just incorporate them in our solution for you. So it's not years in the making, this interface that we have to, the dialects that we have to learn. Yes, but no, you don't have to stack. One purchase, one solution.
Are there competing standards?
For
Something that competes with VDA 50/50?
To my knowledge, there isn't anything else out there that's saying you can either use VDA 50/50 to talk, or you can use XYZ to come together. Right now, VDA 50/50. Right. Right now, VDA 50/50 is the one that's being pushed, that's out there. I don't know in the future if someone may see some use in it, or someone decides they want to improve on it. But if it follows roughly the same protocols, it might be possible to adopt both. Right now, there's not. I think that's it. I may have gotten you out a little early, but that's okay. You can grab a glass of water, take a bio break.
Thank you.
Thank you.